As some of you may be aware, Representative Paulina Luna of Florida sent the following message to Administrator Duffy, who's currently serving as acting administrator at NASA. And she said this about the Object 3I Atlas, quote, "The Object 3I Atlas was discovered on July 1st, 2025. It is expected to arrive at a distance of 53.6 million kilometers from Jupiter on March 16th, 2026. This is a rare opportunity to learn about the origin of a large object that arrived at the Earth's vicinity in the inner solar system from interstellar space. In a new paper led by Professor Avi Loeb, it was shown that applying a thrust of 2.675 kilometers per second on September 14th, 2025 can bring the Juno spacecraft from its orbit around Jupiter to intercept the path of 3I Atlas. It would be appropriate for NASA to accurately assess the fuel reservoir in Juno's engine and use all of it towards the goal of getting us as close as possible to 3I Atlas at closest approach in mid-March 2026. This memo asked NASA to conduct this study. If insufficient fuel is left, observing 3I Atlas from the current orbit of Juno would still be of great value." This is the first significant effort that's been made by a politician to try to get NASA to intercept 3I Atlas, which would be a unique and possibly once-in-a-lifetime scientific opportunity with a spacecraft that's already at the end of its mission. And yet, this request has been met with a great deal of skepticism and, frankly, mockery from a wide variety of sources, both in the astronomy community and also at NASA, but unexpectedly also from the king of UFO conspiracy journalism, Ross Coulthart. And as strange as this may sound, Mr. Coulthart, in an interview with NewsNation, presented information about 3I Atlas that was, at best, missing some very important details, and at worst, very misleading. This is an immense scientific opportunity, regardless of what 3I Atlas might be. Even if it is just an interstellar comet, it's an incredible opportunity. And if journalists like Mr. Coulthart are opposed to it, and especially if they're not sharing the facts about the mission, I don't see how an intercept of 3I Atlas with Juno stands the slightest chance of getting off the ground. Good afternoon, alien enthusiasts, and welcome to another Angry Alien Bulletin here on the Angry Astronaut. So this is a topic that I really didn't expect to be talking about, but at the same time, given the time-sensitive nature of this news and the fact that it really has me aggravated right now, angry, let's just put it that way, just seemed to me to be a very appropriate story to be talking about today, and that is the status of the 3I Atlas intercept mission, or rather, the mission that was proposed by Dr. Avi Loeb just a couple of days ago. And I certainly expected there to be opposition from the mainstream scientific community, from NASA, from others, just because Avi Loeb was the one who came up with the idea, but I definitely didn't expect a journalist like Ross Coulthart to be opposing this mission. But indeed, he is the king of UFO conspiracy journalists, definitely has made quite a name for himself over the years. And by the way, before anybody jumps to any conclusions, I have great respect for his work. It's a very brave thing for him to be doing, to be just stepping out there as a well-recognized journalist and to be taking the kind of position that he does, that alien craft, alien technology has been acquired, dug up, captured, whatever, by the U.S. government over the years, that they've been working on this technology in hangars and facilities for many decades, and the whole thing has just been covered up. So he was the last person that I expected to be opposed to the 3I Atlas intercept mission, and not just opposed, almost like amusedly dismissive of the whole thing. Now, to be clear, I have one contact, one experience with Ross Coulthart, and I'm not going to share all of the details of it, but when I was at Space Symposium in Colorado Springs a few months ago, I had set up an appointment with Ross Hulbert at Spaceport Cornwall, and I was in the midst of sending a Google Calendar invite to Ross and just auto-filled something in. I didn't even know that I had Ross Coulthart's email recorded. I had no idea that I even had access to any of that. And I sent out the invite, and Mr. Coulthart was enraged over the fact that I had sent, from what his perspective was, an unsolicited appointment. And yeah, I can understand him being shocked, a little surprised, a little confused. I've received these sorts of things myself every now and then. The response that generally I would give is, "Who are you? And why are you sending me an invite?" It went a lot further than that. I'm not going to get into the details, but he was really angry that I had sent this to him, to which I replied at first, "Wait a minute, aren't you Ross from Spaceport Cornwall? I just talked to you." "Oh, hold on. I don't know who you are now. I don't know how I have your contact information. I'm sorry. I just invited the wrong Ross." And he didn't respond. He just seemed content to have berated me, at least via email, and that's all I think he felt he needed to do. But regardless, that doesn't change my respect for his work. I think the guy does great stuff. But still, that's why all of this is so shocking. So instead of just going on any further about it, let's listen to what he had to say. And listen, by the way, I have to be extremely careful with relating too much of this stuff to you folks, because I'm treading in very dangerous copyright territory, especially given the fact that I am criticizing this particular journalist. But we need to look at what he had to say, and the fact that there's so many other people who are opposed to this extremely important mission. Well, it just doesn't do it any favors at all.
And boy, is Professor Loeb copping it at the moment from traditional astronomy. He's really drawing a lot of fire for his suggestion that this might be something technological, something alien, because frankly, there isn't really a lot of evidence to support that claim.
You know, he is suggesting using the sunsetting NASA spacecraft Juno to intercept this object, to use that opportunity. Can you help explain that move and if there is value to that?
Okay, well, Juno is obviously a spacecraft sent out by NASA that's currently orbiting Jupiter. There is potentially sufficient fuel on board to attempt this rendezvous, but it's a huge expense and it's a huge diversion of a spacecraft from its originally assigned task, which is to investigate Jupiter.
Okay, once again, I need to be careful how much of this audio I actually use, but there are two immediate significant problems with what Mr. Coulthart has to say here. Number one, that there isn't much evidence that 3I Atlas is anything other than a comet. Well, yeah, I would agree on a fundamental level with this opinion, because we haven't seen anything about this object that screams technosignature or anything, but there are a lot of things that this object is doing that really flies in the face of statistical probability. And as you're going to see a little bit later on, Mr. Coulthart doesn't talk about any of those things, but we'll get to that in just a moment. The thing that I really take issue with is the notion that this would somehow disrupt or destroy an existing spacecraft's mission, that the important mission that Juno has right now to investigate Jupiter would be in some way compromised by diverting it at this point. That is absolutely untrue. Juno is scheduled to be retired and deorbited into Jupiter's atmosphere in September of this year, at precisely the time that it would be diverted to intercept 3I Atlas. It has no other scientific work to do. And as far as expense is concerned, it wouldn't require a new launch, it wouldn't require new equipment. It would require, of course, some new work on the operations level for JPL to calculate the available fuel reservoir, to come up with a new flight plan for Juno, to probably use Jupiter as a gravitational assist to aid it, to reduce the amount of fuel that it would have to expend in order to escape Jupiter's gravity, that sort of thing, and to intercept 3I Atlas. All of those things, of course, would require some staffing issues and some other logistical support, but none of it really of the more expensive kind of stuff, not launching a new rocket, building a new spacecraft. All of the things that tend to run into tens of millions or billions of dollars would have to be done in order to carry out this mission. As a matter of fact, these kinds of things are done all the time. For example, after New Horizons intercepted Pluto, it was diverted to intercept other objects beyond the orbit of Pluto. That required also logistical support and staffing changes at JPL, all of those things necessary to extend New Horizons' mission. And all this would do is extend Juno's mission to intercept the largest and oldest interstellar object to pass through the solar system, or at least to pass through the solar system with us watching it. It is an amazing scientific opportunity, even if it isn't an alien artifact. And while we're talking about alien artifacts, this is what Mr. Coulthart had to say about the unusual characteristics of 3I Atlas.
That it might be something of a technological origin rather than something natural interstellar is because of its trajectory, that it does pass unusually behind the sun at its closest point behind when it's near the sun, and more importantly the speed. He attaches a lot of significance to the speed. But I do notice, Natasha, in his blog, Professor Loeb has actually said, and I quote, by far the most likely outcome will be that this is a completely natural interstellar object, probably a comet. I just don't think, from talking to many astronomers, it's a good idea to go diverting existing spacecraft from, for example, Juno in orbit around Jupiter, or suggesting that these are necessarily alien probes with hostile intent. It's inflammatory, and frankly, there's not a lot of evidence for it on current evidence and data.
I honestly have a difficult time believing that Mr. Coulthart actually said that. It could be argued quite easily that talking about the government concealing hidden or captured alien technology in some sort of concealed vault, not telling anybody about it, having access to technology that could revolutionize human civilization and keeping that hidden from human society intentionally, that could be seen as being inflammatory too. And although Mr. Coulthart has interviewed quite a number of credible witnesses on this topic, and I applaud him for doing so, he doesn't have a whole lot of tangible first-hand evidence to prove that the government is actually doing these things, which is why he's been investigating it. So let's talk about the tangible evidence that we have for 3I Atlas and the fact that it seems very, very strange and it is doing odd things for an object passing at random through the solar system. I've talked about this a number of times, but I think it's worth reviewing it really quickly. First of all, this object is passing through the solar system on the plane of the ecliptic, perfectly aligned with the inner solar system to make close approaches to Mars, to Venus, and to Jupiter. If you plug in that possibility to any AI, any random calculator out there to determine just how likely that is, you will see that it's tens of thousands to one. It could perhaps even be millions to one against that something like this would happen purely by chance. In addition, the object is so unbelievably large, at least 10 kilometers in diameter. That makes it a very strange and unusual object, given how few interstellar objects we've seen overall, and that the others that we have seen have been far smaller than this one. Flies in the face of statistical probability that an object this huge would be passing through the solar system at random, given how rare interstellar objects seem to be. Keep in mind, 3I Atlas is about as big as Halley's Comet, an object that was spotted as far back as the Middle Ages when it made a pass through the inner solar system. If an object like this had passed through our solar system at just about any time in the 20th century, given its size, a comet this big most probably would have been seen, its velocity would have been calculated, and we would have known about an interstellar object passing through our solar system decades ago. But guess what? It didn't. This didn't happen simply because these events are very, very unusual. And if an object like this just happens to be passing through the solar system now, then why haven't we spotted thousands of objects like Oumuamua and 2I Borisov? It doesn't make a great deal of sense. Also, even though this object appears to have a coma and appears to have a stubby cometary tail, spectrographic analyses of the coma has turned up no gases or chemicals whatsoever. No free oxygen, no hydrogen, no ice, nothing. Nothing to suggest that there's any sort of active cometary outgassing taking place. And also, the comet's tail is pointing towards the sun, not away from the sun, which is highly unusual for any comet. So many things about this object that are frankly very strange. And even if it is a natural object, where's the harm in diverting a probe that's about to be retired anyway? Juno has no significant science left to perform. Its job is done. Why not extend the mission? So I must say, I'm a little disappointed with Mr. Coulthart. Either he didn't research this topic thoroughly enough, and that's why he didn't give us all of these details during his interview, or he chose to hide them. That just doesn't seem to be like him, really. I think it's just more likely that he didn't do his homework. And once again, given the fact that we're both in the same profession, that's a very dangerous thing to do when you're talking about things like aliens and UFO cover-ups. So I hope all of you can see my agitation here. I mean, the whole point of a Juno probe intercept of 3I Atlas is not necessarily to determine whether or not it's an alien probe. As I've said quite a number of times, it's very likely just a comet. Although I have to say there are so many things about this object, which of course I've already gone over quickly in the video, done a quick review of all the implausible things that have occurred to make this comet pass through the solar system in the manner that it is. But even if it's just broken all the odds, beat the odds, and passing through the solar system this way purely by chance, it's still a huge interstellar object, a rare object in the extreme. We're talking a comet as big as Halley's Comet, one of the most massive comets that passes through the solar system, but it's coming from an interstellar destination. It's billions of years older, most probably, than anything in our solar system, and it's been traveling between the stars since before the time that our sun started burning. Certainly, this object has experienced and evolved in ways that objects in the solar system simply haven't. This is very likely a unique and unusual object and a rare and fantastic scientific opportunity. And yet, for some reason, Mr. Coulthart, of all people, along with everybody else who's opposing this mission, is against it as well. But that being the case, given the fact that Representative Luna is behind this idea, I think it's time for the public to make their opinions known. I have linked in the description how you can contact your congressman, your senator, etc. if you happen to be an American citizen. Let these people know. Let your representative know that this is an important mission, one that can be carried out very affordably. We're not talking a new launch, new equipment, new technology, new nothing. None of that is required. It's just diverting a probe that is about to be retired anyway, that has no new objectives on its docket, at least not at the point that it's supposed to be diverted, or it could be diverted to intercept 3I Atlas. There's very little reason to not at least try a mission like this, or at the very least examine the possibilities, examine the feasibility of doing a mission like this. To just dismiss it because Avi Loeb is talking about this thing maybe being an alien object, to dismiss this perhaps once in a lifetime scientific opportunity, is beyond tragic and beyond ignorant. Thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And also, please consider supporting this channel on Patreon. We have several new Patreon members, got their names listed down here, who are trying to get me to that 0.5% of viewers, or rather subscribers, who are also Patreon supporters. We can get to that point. I'm going to do an all-day UFO event. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, stay angry about space.